Hey family, welcome back to Jack's Making It Home. As we all know, Memorial Day is right around the corner, so of course, we're going to bring you guys another cooking video. Now me personally, I'm really excited about this one because I haven't made one of these in quite some time. In this video, we are going to be preparing and cooking the good old pork butt. Now you may have heard this referred to by a few terms. You have the pork butt, you have the pork shoulder, and then you also have the Boston butt. They all are the same cut of meat and they come from the same portion of the pig, which is that upper front shoulder. This is a very, very versatile piece of meat and it's also very forgiving when you cook it. You can cube it, you can shred it, you can pull it, you can slice it, pretty much do whatever you want to do to make your pork sliders. You can make some pulled pork sandwiches, pork tacos. There's even a food truck around here that takes Chinese boxes. He layers in mac and cheese, baked beans, and some pulled pork, and it's really delicious. So pretty much whatever your heart desires will probably be pretty good with this. We actually are going to be doing this cook on tomorrow, but tonight starts the preparation, and the first step is the injection. So let's get rolling on that. So this is a pretty simple injection, guys, but it has a huge impact on the meat in my opinion. The first thing that we started with was some water. We had 3/4 cups there. And then from there we're going to do a cup of apple juice, half a cup of salt, a half a cup of brown sugar, and then we'll do 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. So let's go ahead and get that going. That's the entire injection. You just want to stir it until you get all of your sugars and salts dissolved. As you can see, we have our injection all done. All of the sugars and salts have been dissolved. So let's talk about the process really fast of injecting our meat. So of course you want to go ahead and get some of the injection inside of your injector. And then you want to find a port wherever you want to start. I usually start at the bottom right, but wherever you want to start. And what I do is I start the injection process. What I'll do is put a little bit in. Instead of pulling it all the way out, what I'll do is go into 2 or 3 different angles inside of that same port until I feel like that one has taken enough of the injection. And then I'll continue on through the pork butt in a grid-like fashion until I feel like the entire pork butt has been covered equally and it's a nice even injection. So we got our pork butt all injected with the injection that we made. I'm very, very happy with it. It's very even and it's nicely filled. The next step is to cover it with some aluminum foil and we'll let it marinate. I recommend at least 4 hours, but if you can, go ahead and do it overnight, which is what we are going to do. If you have some extra marinade left over, if you have some extra injection left over, please keep it. We're going to use it as a spritz, and we'll talk about that when we get it on the pit. So right now we're going to cover it up, throw it in the fridge or the cooler, whichever one you have, and just let it marinate. So it's the next day. We had our pork butt in the fridge marinating overnight with the injection inside, and it's ready for the next step, which is to apply the rub. So we have some regular yellow mustard right here. It's just gonna be our binding agent. So don't go heavy here and don't worry, it's not gonna give it any taste. It's just gonna allow the rub to stick to the meat. For the rub, we have Killer Hogs V Barbecue Rub. I got this as a Christmas gift this past Christmas, so thank you, Steve. Definitely appreciate that. But you can use whatever rub that you like, whichever one you want to. And then on top of this barbecue rub, we're gonna put on a little bit of cayenne red pepper, and this is just gonna give it a little bite. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with this process. So when you're getting ready to apply your rub, just make sure that you do a quick drying of the meat. Just take a paper towel and just, pat it dry. And then with the yellow mustard, again, don't go heavy. It's just gonna be a binding agent, but you wanna make sure you get a nice coating all around the pork butt.
now that I feel like I have enough mustard on here, what I'm going to do is go ahead and apply the rub. Go ahead and apply this quite liberally. The meat can handle it. So just go ahead and throw that on even on the fat cap side. And just make sure that you get a nice even coating.
So we applied the mustard and got the rub all applied. We have a nice even coat here. We're gonna let it rest here for a little bit more, try to get it down closer to room temperature, and we'll go check on the pit. So as you guys can see, we have the pit warming up already. If you need to see exactly how we set up our coals, check out our honey smoked ham video. We walk you step by step on how to set it up and light the coals and all that. We're using the same method, which is the Minion method. So we're waiting for this to get up to 225 degrees. That's going to be our temperature today. And once it reaches there, we're going to throw our pork butt on. Through my experience, it takes anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half per pound. We have about an 8-pound pork butt in there sweating up right now. And so we're looking at anywhere between 8 to 12 hours today for this cook. Once it reaches 225 degrees, we're going to throw our wood chunks on, which today are going to be hickory and cherry. It's going to provide a nice smoked flavor for this meat. So we're at our target temperature of 225 degrees. It is time to put this pork butt on. We are going fat side down to give an extra layer of protection from the heat. As you can see, we have a really, really beautiful color right here. The meat is starting to absorb those sugars and salts from the rub, so this will give us a really, really nice bark. We're going to come back in an hour to check on it, but for now we're going to close the lid and let it cook. So it's been about an hour. This is what we're looking like. We took some of that injection that we used earlier that we had left over, put it in spray bottle, and we're going to use it to spritz this pork butt. We're just going to keep adding moisture to it at the top of every hour until it's time to wrap. Cover it up, give it another hour, we'll be back. So we are right at the 5-hour mark. I'm really, really loving the color that we have on this pork butt right here. We've maintained a temperature of 225 degrees. We spritz at the top of every hour, and right now we are having what I call the mahogany color. So that's perfect for us. I feel like it's gotten enough of the hickory and cherry smoke. And then also, as you see, we have a temperature probe in the side of it, and that's reading 160 degrees. So right now, those 3 indications are telling me that it's time to move on to the next step, which is wrapping it. So when I wrap my pork butts, I like to use 2 to 3 layers of heavy duty aluminum foil. Before I close it up, I like to put in a little bit of the spritz that we had from the injection. And then on top of that, I'll put a little rub, and then I'll close it up, making sure that the temperature probe is still inside. Once it's closed nice and wrapped tightly, I'll put it back on the pit until it reaches the internal of 198 degrees. And at that point, we're just about done. So while that pork butt is coming up to an internal temperature of 198 degrees, we're gonna go ahead and get this glaze ready. We're gonna put this on towards the end of the cook. So what you're gonna need for this glaze is 12 ounces of your favorite barbecue sauce, 4 ounces of any fruit preserve, 4 ounces of honey, and then 4 ounces of apple cider vinegar to thin it out a little bit. So let's get rolling on that. So our pork butt just hit 198 degrees, which is absolutely perfect. That's right where we need it. So we're gonna get this foil off of it. We're gonna transfer it over to this cooler rack, which is just gonna make transport a little easier. So with the glaze, just make sure you get a nice even coat across the entire pork butt. Once you're happy with it, we're gonna put it back on the pit for 15 to 20 minutes just to let that glaze caramelize a little bit, and then we'll be all done. Alright guys, that is it. Very, very easy cook. Just take some time and some patience. Like I said, this is about an 8-pound pork butt here. It took about 8 hours to complete. We have to let it rest for about 30 minutes now, but let's go ahead and recap what we did from start to finish. We took it out of its packaging, rinsed it off, patted it dry, then we injected it. Once we injected it, we threw it in the fridge and let it marinate overnight. I recommend at least 4 hours, but if you can put it overnight, go ahead and let it run overnight. Once we took it out, we patted it dry again, and then we used some yellow mustard to be the binding agent for our rub. Once we got it rubbed down, we got our pit up to 225 degrees, and then we threw our pork butt on. We spritzed it every hour until we got the right color and internal temperature, which was around 160 degrees. At that point, we wrapped it and we left it on there until it reached 198 degrees. Once it reached 198 internal, we put the glaze on that we made, and then we put it back on for about 20 minutes just so that glaze could caramelize, and now we're at the resting period. So we let it rest for about 30 minutes. I always start with the natural, what I call the natural instant thermometer, which is getting this main bone out right here. If that slides out like that, that means you have a moist and ready pork butt that is ready to be pulled.
Once you get the bone out, you can go ahead and start just putting your hand in it and getting the meat out. But you will have some fat in there that didn't render down. You can just stick that to the side, but you're still going to yield 6 to 7 pounds of lean meat. So it's very, very clean and very juicy and moist. You just want to get in there and shred it apart.
Alright guys, I can't take it anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little piece for myself. Try a little bit of the money muscle. This is when they do the competitions. This is what they put in the box. So it's supposed to be the best part of it. So we want to give it a shot. It's really good, guys. You got to give this recipe a try. Just the balance of the pork, the saltiness from the rub, the sweetness from the glaze, like everything just blends and balances together. Give it a shot. Let us know how it goes. And until next time, be blessed.